Hey everyone, it's Carissa. Thanks for joining me today. Today I interrupt my regularly scheduled broadcast. I'm just kidding. This isn't one of the days that I normally do, but I'm here for a special card project featuring this Fawn Magic Color Slider die set. Now, I am going to be breaking these apart, and when I do this, I like to get my magnetic material out and ready. This is a little bit larger die set, so I'm using a larger piece of magnetic material today, and I'm using my die snips to snip all of these dies apart. Now, a die set like this can look a little intimidating because there are so many dies and it seems like there's so many pieces to put together, but I'm going to show you exactly how easy this is. So to build the base of my color slider window, I am going to use all the dies that have solid outlines. So you see all of these do not have any stitching. So I'm pulling out all of these pieces and I'm going to die cut those. Now, all of these here that have the faux stitching around them, those are to create windows inside of your magic color slider. And these other ones, well, they're just fun extras. You have a nice little hello sentiment, a banner, and then those 3 tabs that can go on top of the magic color slider pool portion. And this is all going to make sense as we put this together. So I'm starting out by running this large kind of rectangular shape through my die cut machine, and then I'm going to do this kind of funky looking U shape. This piece here, this little rectangle, this is meant to cut the acetate piece that will go behind your window. You can also use it to cut the inner piece of your magic slider, the part that you're going to stamp and color on, which is what I did here. And I'm cutting it out of some smooth Bristol cardstock because of the type of markers I'm going to be using. So you may want to consider what type of cardstock you might want to use depending on what color medium you're going to be using. And finally, I'm cutting this funky tabbed looking piece out of some linen cardstock. So I have all of my pieces die cut here. You can see it seems like a lot, but really it's not. This piece here is the base of my magic slider, and you can see it actually cuts a little slit and scores it along the top where you need to fold it. And then I'm going to use one of these stitch dies to create a window on one side of this. Now I'm kind of holding these up to the die set, or the stamp set, I'm sorry, that I'm going to be using today to see what shape I like best with this pineapple. And I decided to go ahead and use this oval today. So I'm going to hold it in place on the center of this magic slider, what I'm going to call the base piece, with a piece of delicate surface frog painter's tape. And then I'm going to run it through my die cut machine. Now here's the genius part of these window dies. It leaves the stitching around your window on your base piece, but it also puts some stitching on this piece. So you can actually use this on another card later on, and all of those window pieces do that, which I think is really cool and smart from the people at Fawn. So I am going to go ahead and adhere my acetate, and I'm just using some 1/8 inch score tape or Be Creative tape. Sometimes it's called either one, but it's basically a strong double-sided adhesive tape. And I've put it all around that window that I have there. And once I get the backer peeled off, I'm just going to take my acetate piece that I cut with that rectangle die and place it over that window so that it will be all sealed up. Now I used my bone folder to press that down and really make sure it was adhered well, but you could skip that part if you want. So I wanted to show you kind of the basic mechanism of this. This tabbed portion goes inside and slides up through that slit that's on the base piece. And then on the inside, you will have your scene or your image. Now, the cool thing about this is that it's going to create this magic effect that when you pull the slider up, you're going to reveal the color underneath. But when the slider's closed, it's going to be black and white. And I think you'll see this as we go along. So I'm starting out by kind of masking off that lower portion of my oval because I'm going to stamp this kind of in the lower right-hand corner of my window, and I didn't want the pineapple to stamp onto that blue portion of cardstock. So I just went ahead and masked that off with some Post-it notes, and I stamped onto that acetate using some StazOn jet black ink. Now StazOn is great for stamping on acetate, and so you want to make sure that you are using a ink that will play well with your acetate. So just keep that in mind. StazOn's a great one for it. And because it's waterproof and permanent, I'm going to go ahead and use it to stamp my pineapple onto my inner portion as well. Now to color my pineapple and my entire scene today, I'm going to be using my Zig Art and Graphic Twin markers. These are a water-based marker, and I am just putting some dark areas into the pineapple and blending it out with that yellow. And then I'm coloring the entire background using a gradient. Now, if you noticed earlier, I said I cut this out of some Bristol Smooth cardstock. That's because it plays really well with these Art and Graphic Twins. So I am just scribbling on this color here, and I'm kind of overlapping the colors so that they'll blend together. And if I have areas that weren't quite blended too well, I'm going to just go back over with that color and kind of blend them together. And you can see I was able to achieve seamless blending. It is so easy on this Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I love these markers. So now that I have that all colored, I'm going to adhere it inside of my base piece. So I've added some tape runner adhesive to the back of it, and I'm lining it up with the stamped image that's on my window so that there's no offset. If it's offset at all, it's going to look off and it's going to look weird. So you want to make sure that those images line up perfectly. And once I get it lined up perfectly, I'm just going to close my base piece there. And then I'm going to remove this frog painter's tape that I held it in place with while I closed it, because sometimes you can shift them around when you're closing it. And you can see here, I have that all lined up and ready to go. So now I can slide my tabbed portion in, and you can get a peek of how this really works. This is going to go on the front of my card. And in order to keep my tabbed portion from kind of sliding about all wonky, I'm going to use this U-shaped piece, and I'm just adhering it into the base using some more score tape. And I have that tabbed piece pulled up all the way through that slit to where it stops, and I'm just lining up the edges of that U piece with the tabs on the edge. I'm not adhering it over it, I am just butting it up against those tabs that are on that piece. And that will ensure that that tabbed piece doesn't kind of shift around in my magic slider. And now it's time to put another layer of adhesive on that U-shaped piece and close this all up. So you can see I have my slider mechanism all in place. It opens to reveal that really colorful scene. So to finish off this card, I am going to heat emboss a sentiment onto this pink cardstock. I've prepped the surface using my EK Success powder tool. I'm stamping the sentiment in some Versamark ink, and then I'm adding some superfine detail embossing powder in white. And then I'm just going to heat set that, and I'm going to take it to my trimmer and just trim it off into a little strip. Now I'm having trouble with my trimmer here, and that was my own fault because I forgot to take off the protective coating. So trimmers are not that hard to use. It was totally user error in this case. And you can see I went ahead and trimmed my sentiment piece down into a banner end on either side. And then I went back to my die cutting machine, and I decided to die cut some of these cute little tabs to put along the top of my pull tab portion. I'm going to put one on either side so that there's color on either side of this. You could use just one if you wanted to. And then when I got to this point, I did something really crazy and brave. I decided I wanted a face on my pineapple, so I stuck this back into my MISTI and I inked up my little stamp using my StazOn ink, and I stamped a face onto that already completed piece. Crazy, right? Do not try this at home. So here you see I have my finished card. I've just layered this up onto a linen cardstock card base. And I put a strip of that wood grain cardstock behind my slider portion. I just thought that was kind of a fun accent. It kind of reminds me of those old woody cars, you know, the ones with the wood sides, you know, the Hawaiian theme with the wood. But anyway, that's how my mind works. I don't know if it's crazy or it's genius, but there is definitely a fine line between the two. As always, I will have links to the featured supplies in the description at YouTube, but if you're watching this at YouTube, be sure you head on over to the Coordinating Classroom blog post, because I'll have more information, more still shots, and a complete list of supplies over there. All of these supplies are available for purchase at ellenhudson.com. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.